Being a witcher is a very unique kind of life. You know this as well as I do because, well, we've been witchers for at least hundreds of hours. If we can call the third part of the Witcher series the ultimate monster slayer experience, then this new expansion, Blood and Wine, is yet another and rather big portion of exactly this kind of experience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tussent. The new region brings along a lot of things to do, but let me save that for later. You know why? Because it's still the main story that serves as queen in this expansion. Of course, there's a lot more content than in Hearts of Stone, and it's a very important part of this new world, so I'm not pushing it away. The crucial thing is that all those side quests never overshadow the main story, which pulled me in so much I decided to leave most of other things for the very end. The tempo of main story here is very helpful. Sometimes several main quests will be tightly connected to each other, so in theory they are separate quests, but it makes more sense to just do them all at once because of the atmosphere around them. This is very important for me. The game doesn't make you do anything, but the story is so immersive that you mostly avoid the standard RPG situation in which somebody waits for you to do the very important thing, while you are walking around, exploring, killing some random monsters and having fun doing some hilarious side quests. The freedom in such games is great, but we also want to have a story with decent tempo, right? Blood and Wine does it in the most fair way there is. It just has an interesting story and you want to do those main quests. Of course, every once in a while you feel that a specific chapter of the story is closed and it's the right moment to have a break and explore a little, but you quickly realize you just want to know what's going to happen next. And suddenly all those side quests can wait. The main story quests are very well done. Most of them introduce unique locations which are superb when it comes to creating a mood. One time you get a beautiful mansion, a place for artists to party all night long, and another time you get a cemetery-like mansion, haunted and wrapped in mystery. There's also a lot of dialogues, also those which are entirely optional. These are a treat to listen to and build a solid background not only for the characters, but also other elements of the Witcher universe. A common theme of main quests here is a great introduction phase. What matters in this expansion is not just what is going to happen, but also what kind of atmosphere and mood is going to be created before it happens. All these talks, characters' thoughts, stories and legends, they all made me get invested in the story so much, I sometimes forgot that I'm actually playing an open world RPG game that has all those other things to do outside of main story. That element of building up is also very apparent in the detective aspect of the game. There was always a lot of that in The Witcher 3, but it feels as if there's even more in Blood and Wine. Those sequences in which you need to investigate something and all those little clues are often constructed in a way that enables your imagination to kick in before anything happens, and you create your own version of what is going on in this place. And sometimes the results are surprising, which is also a big plus, by the way. The main story is great as an independent piece of this expansion, and it's also mostly set in a rather dark tone. A relief for that comes in the form of side quests. It's interesting how many of those are mechanically very simple and ride mostly on ideas, dialogue, etc. Of course, I wouldn't mind if a game like Witcher 3 had more interactions upon which the quests could be created, but the truth is that in Blood and Wine the developers mastered everything that they had available in Witcher 3 in general. The story inside side quests is often good enough to justify, for example, a minimal amount of combat. But on the other hand, when there is combat, it's great. What I really like about this expansion is that all the battles you get during side missions feel unique. You have a few boss fights, just like in the main story, but even when it comes to smaller monsters, you almost always get something new. Actually, the one time that I had to kill a good old griffin, I realized how strange it was to confront a foe that I already knew from the Wild Hunt. Instead, you get things like Arcspores, Panthers, Garkines, and even Barghests, which still remember The Witcher 1. There's a lot of stuff to fight, and it's rare that you will meet an enemy that's exactly the same as what you got in the main game. There's a lot of side missions to do, enough that I didn't really worry about all those question marks on the map, which I usually try to do in the Wild Hunt. Here I had enough content compared to the size of the new region. I didn't really feel a need to do anything else other than the main or side quests, as long as I had them available. There's also other fun stuff to do, for example the winery that Geralt becomes owner of. This was a positive surprise for me, because even though I didn't really think I'd put much time or effort into this, earning money and adding new elements to the property actually feels like some kind of progress. The most important thing though is the fact that we can treat the winery as some kind of home for the main character, or at least a base of operations for the time being. Everyone who got immersed into the Witcher world knows that Geralt never really had a place to stay during his everyday work. You did your alchemy somewhere in the forest, read book in random inns, meditated wherever, and so it went, the Witcher cycle of life. I like those moments in Blood and Wine when in between missions I just come back home, sleep in my own bed and look at some paintings or swords that I remember from past adventures. The developers also prepared a lot of items that can have some sentimental value, so during different quests you can get your hands on paintings or pieces of equipment that may not be best, but they work well as mementos. So even this kind of interactions, the ones that serve only to make your stay in the Witcher world more immersive, also make the expansion longer in their own way. The same goes with minor new mechanics, such as checking out the new mutations for Geralt, which come with the new kinds of bonuses, searching for new pieces of Witcher equipment, and so on and so on. The density of Blood and Wine really works well, because even though the map is large, it's not too large, but drowning in content, which is waiting for you on every corner. Of course, the new region itself makes a great impression. Just the fact that you are somewhere else makes it a more fresh experience than Hearts of Stone. We get a location that has completely different style, so you can spend your time watching the architecture, wall paintings, or just enjoy the color palette, which after hundreds of hours in the Wild Hunt is really refreshing. I'm also really happy with the audio. There's a lot of new exotic sounds here, the NPC barter is again surprising and funny, and also the music, while still in the style of The Witcher 3, has some elements that you won't find in the previous compositions. All those things are of course an eye candy, but they also create a very unique mood, which makes the quests themselves more interesting to follow. I have to say I'm very surprised with how much novelty Blood and Wine brings to The Witcher. What is really most important though is how the creators managed to do something better and better with every expansion, and so now we are here with a story that has higher quality than the original Wild Hunt. I got really invested in the main plot, the dialogues were amazing to listen to, and some of the scenes, the way they're animated or directed, just give you that hint you have never seen this in The Witcher 3 before. As a Witcher fan, I can't really do anything else than to recommend Blood and Wine to everyone who is a fan just like me. This is what we expected, and this is what we got. So now, well, we wait for Cyberpunk.